Welcome back to Season 5 of the Changing Earth podcast with Sara F. Hathaway, blending survival fiction and fact to bring you entertaining education that will help you dream, survive, and thrive. And now, here's your host, Sara F. Hathaway.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Changing Earth podcast. This is episode number 172, Season 5, Episode 9. Not a whole lot going on around here. We're just buttoning up for winter, getting all our firewood covered up and chopped up and ready to go. And, you know, it's just same old. Worrying about getting everything kind of stored up, making sure that the food preps are ready to go and whatnot for power outages and things like that. So just kind of buttoning up for winter time. I've been practicing a lot of jiu-jitsu. You know, I have good days. I have bad days. Oh, of course, I'm continuing my other martial arts training as well. Instructor stuff is going really well. I'm having a lot of fun with that. But, you know, jiu-jitsu is my constant challenge right now. And definitely I'd like to just share it with you because I'm hoping that it encourages you to get outside of your comfort zone and go try something different. You know, go put your body to the test and, you know, learn your self-defense because it's really important to do. And that's what keeps me going to class because I got to tell you, I have good days and I have bad days. And it's a challenge. It's really a challenge. And I would feel really sorry for the person who had no idea what to do once somebody took them to the ground, you know, in that situation. It's just really scary. The adrenaline's just going crazy. So I encourage you to go out and see what you can do. So that's my little pointer. And that's the only reason why I keep sharing it with you. Otherwise, you know, it's kind of difficult for me. And so I wouldn't really be sharing it publicly if I didn't believe that it couldn't encourage you to get out there and get at it yourself, you know, start learning how to fight. I want to go ahead and thank my Patreon members, of course. You guys, I just can't tell you how much I appreciate your efforts and your support of the show. I'm really trying to build up the coffers right now so that I can get my book series going to more places and doing more things. And so I don't want to, you know, reveal too much about that until I have news for you. You know, could take a year. It could take 17 years. I don't know. But, you know, the mission is there. The goal is there. And that's what I'm after. And that's what I'm going to keep striving for. So no matter what comes my way, that's the goal that I'm heading towards. And so your contribution, your support of my efforts, just totally appreciated. And I will let you know that the next two books that I do are just back-to-back books. I've already got the one pretty much done, but I want to release them pretty close together. However, Patreon members are going to get special access to book number 6 way ahead of everybody else. I've already made that decision because I appreciate your support so much. So if you want to get early access to that book, that's going to be the way to do it. Otherwise, you know, I'm going to wait and release those two books kind of close together because I know everybody's going to be kicking down my door wanting the next one as soon as book 6 comes out. So that's why I'm kind of planning to do it that way. So, but I will absolutely be giving my Patreon members early access to that novel. So stay tuned for that news, and thank you very much for your support and your contributions. Last week, everybody was getting ready to go to this concert, and Daniel decided to go with Mr. Rowan instead. He went and checked out Mr. Rowan's studio and all that. But this week, the family is off to the concert, and we're going to see how that goes. And today I have Jim Cobb on the show. He's a new guest on my show, so that's awesome. Always fun to have a new guest on the show. And he is going to talk about healthy ways to handle conflict resolution. So great show today, and I want to jump right into it. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into Chapter 9 of Dark Days in Denver. Chapter 9. Erica could hear the loud pulsing of the music as they neared the town. It was a reconstruction of the past. Buildings repaired with random spare parts still stood. Seeing the somewhat familiar landscape warmed Erica's heart. Tiny shops offered services to residents, and a marketplace dominated the center of town. Erica's tummy grumbled as her nostrils filled with the aroma of the evening foods they were preparing for hungry concertgoers. "I'm glad I came. This is cool," Erica noted, feeling positive about the experience. "It is," Vince agreed, hugging her tightly with one arm. They entered a large building adjacent to the marketplace that was used for community events. The band was rocking the stage, and a throng of people was dancing in front of them. "Would you like to dance?" Kyle immediately asked Star. "Hell yeah," Star replied jovially, heading off into the crowd. Vince and Erica smiled at the two of them, dancing their way through the people. "Want to get a drink?" Vince asked her. "Hell yeah," Erica replied in a ditzy voice, poking fun at Star's behavior. Vince smiled at her as he grabbed her hand, entering the drink line. The drink they received was a mix of some type of berry juice and some kind of alcohol, but Erica couldn't discern the flavors. "At least it goes down smooth," Vince commented, watching her sipping and analyzing. They sat off to the side on a hay bale as they enjoyed their drinks and discussed the day's events. Erica was ever vigilant, scanning the people and checking for signs of danger. She knew Sergeant Hensley was hovering somewhere behind her, but watching the people for signs of trouble was innate to her after years of being on the run. She noticed Nicholton was in attendance, and her eyes widened as she saw Bennett walk in with a female companion. Watching her expression change, Vince looked in the direction her eyes stopped their scan at. "Isn't that Miss Longlegs from the bar in Reno?" Vince asked. "I think so," she replied. "How about that?" They laughed together at the sergeant trying to look smooth and stumble over himself. The room became silent as the band changed. When the new band was settled, the room exploded into a roar of rock and roll music, and the dancers surged back and forth on the floor. "Do you want to dance?" Vince asked her. "No, not really," Erica admitted. He looked at her confused. She always wanted to dance. "What's going on, baby?" "Nothing. I'm fine," she responded. "You've been in a mood all afternoon. I thought Bennett gave you props this morning," he prodded. "He did," she replied. "Then what's up?" he insisted. "My mom," she started to say. "Yeah," he urged her on. "My mom said I need to find something else to do besides train and clean weapons. I was thinking about it. I don't know what else to do," she admitted, looking curiously at him. "You need to stay sharp, baby. She doesn't understand," Vince told her. "Yeah, but I was thinking, how did I get here? Maybe I should find something else to do," she admitted. "That would be nice if we were in another reality. A nice little basket weaving hobby," Vince told her sarcastically. "In this reality, you're being hunted. The feds would love to have your head on a platter. You have to train so you can always defend yourself, and the people that love you have to be ready because we never know when they're coming," Vince continued urgently. His run-in with the captain in Las Vegas changed him. He knew that the feds would use anyone she loved to get to her. He would never let his lady face the danger alone if he could help it. Just because we're safe for now doesn't mean we will be forever. You have to train. But tonight, we can have some fun. "Come on, let's dance," he insisted, pulling her up from the hay. She smiled widely at him as the alcohol rushed through her brain. She followed behind as he led her out into the sway of the crowd. They danced until they were sweaty and their legs trembled with the beat. "Want to go get something to drink?" Vince asked. "Sure," Erica answered jovially. He loved watching her like this, worries forgotten, alive in the moment. She glistened in the light as they exited the dance floor. He took her over to the hay bales and left her there so she could catch her breath while he got them drinks. Dexter found her there. "Where have you been?" Erica stumbled over her words a little, feeling the effects of the alcohol. "I saved a homesteader's child today," he told her. "I heard that," Erica admitted. "Turns out it was James Creed's son, the grandson of Lars Creed, who owns the homestead community," he informed her. "Really? Good move," Erica replied. "I've been eating a steak dinner," Dexter boasted. "And you didn't come get us?" she asked, acting upset. "I couldn't, but it was good," Dexter told her, rubbing his belly. He was teasing with her, but his eyes were scanning the crowd as he spoke. "Who's that guy with Grandma?" "His name is Walter. She met him at the laundry," Erica said flatly. "You don't like him?" Dexter wondered. "If he makes Grandma smile again, then he can't be too bad," Erica admitted. "Hey, baby," Vince said as he approached, watching the man speak to her. As he neared, he recognized the frame. "Oh, hi, buddy. Where have you been?" "Out getting spoiled by the homesteaders," Dex boasted. "You'll have to introduce me. I'd love to check out the facilities. They're producing a lot of food to be able to run this operation," Vince noted, remembering his efforts to maximize production in Las Vegas to feed everyone. I came to steal your mom away for a minute, if that's okay, Vince told him. Sure, I'm going to see if I can find someone to dance with, Dexter replied. I think Megan is over there talking with some teenagers, Erica informed him, pointing the way. I bet she'd love a partner. I bet she would, the young man replied, heading off with a bounce in his step. Come on, hon, Vince insisted, urging her to come with him. What's up with you? Erica wondered, surprised by his behavior. It's a surprise, Vince teased, heading towards the door. Sergeant Hensley followed not far behind them, and his presence was really starting to annoy Erica. She was trying to relax and let her hair down, but Hensley's constant surveillance made her feel self-conscious about her actions. The air outside the building was crisp and moist. Erica inhaled deeply, but caught smell of something else in the air. Erica smiled widely at Vince. He led her to an enclosed outdoor patio area where the smell of marijuana intensified. Erica was delighted to smoke again. She loved the relaxed feeling, coupled with the pain relief that it provided. Never having been a big fan of alcohol, she wished over the years that she had access to it. They joined in a circle of other individuals passing around a joint. It was finally Erica's turn, and she inhaled deeply from it. She held the smoke in for a minute while she was passing the joint off to Vince. Exhaling, she said, "You sure know how to cheer a gal up." He smiled gently at her with his tattered teeth. "I thought you might enjoy this." They lingered for a while in the circle before re-entering the building. The air inside was muggy with the sweat of dancers, and the crowd had intensified. They began to weave through the throng of people over to the end of the drink line. Swaying to the music, she and Vince held hands as they inched forward. "There's my little cupcake," a voice boomed from behind as they approached. She didn't even need to turn around and know who it was. "Hi, Sergeant Bennett," she responded. "Hensley told me you guys were outside," he said flatly. "Yeah, is there a problem?" she asked. He said no, but he shot her a disapproving look. "I don't think you've met Michelle." The disapproving look Bennett gave her, mixed with the alcohol and marijuana combination, put Erica in an extremely relaxed and cocky state of mind. The filter that usually existed between her mouth and her brain had suddenly ceased to exist. "Oh, isn't she Miss Longlegs from the bar in Reno?" Erica asked sarcastically. Bennett blushed fiercely and looked embarrassed, but Michelle handled the situation with class. "Actually, my name is Michelle Benson," she replied cordially. "Do you have a name other than Cupcake?" Erica smiled at her intelligent rebuttal. She had a feeling she was going to like Michelle. "Staff Sergeant Karen Case," Erica responded. "Aren't you his superior now since the Merkley incident? And he has the nerve to call you Cupcake?" Michelle asked, eyeballing Bennett flirtatiously. "It's a long story," Erica explained. The guys went to get more drinks as the ladies chatted. Star joined them after a while. Her face was red from dancing and laughing. Erica saw joy in the young woman's heart that she had not seen for a long time. Kyle returned with Vince, Bennett, and the drinks. "What is this?" Erica wondered, looking at a clear liquid in a long shot glass. "Moonshine," Bennett delighted, "but not just any moonshine. This is the maker's best, over 100 proof." Erica drank the liquid, expecting it to burn, but it was strangely smooth, and she was working on drinking the entire shot glass before Bennett noticed. "No, hopscotch! You can't drink that much of that stuff. You're going to be sick," Bennett corrected her, taking the shot glass out of her hand. He passed it to Vince and produced another to take a pull from himself. "Star?" a voice from the edge of the crowd called towards them. No one here that knew their names should have been using them. The group didn't respond, but Erica nonchalantly took notice of the direction the call had come from. A familiar face approached. It was Star's ex-husband, Sean. He was a handsome man who they met in Montana while they were on the run from the federal forces. His once long sandy brown hair was cut short and he looked thin. "There's no one here by that name," Erica told him, cutting him off. She moved with purpose, but her words were slurred. "Erica, I need to talk to Star," Sean insisted. "There's no one here by that name either, son," Bennett growled at him, stepping in between the two. "You need to leave. Now." Erica saw Star whisper to Kyle as she retreated to Vince's side. "But I need to talk to Star," he insisted again, despite Bennett's intimidating presence. "Do we have a problem here, Sergeant?" Kyle asked, stepping forward.
Just some confused band member, Bennett replied. He thought he knew one of the ladies here. Let's you and me go discuss this outside, Kyle commanded. But, Sean protested, she'll meet you outside, he told Sean. Sean acquiesced and headed toward the door, but Kyle was the only one that followed. You okay? Erica asked her. Yeah, I just didn't think I'd run into him here, Star said, scowling. Forget it. We're having too much fun to worry about that, Erica slurred, hugging her. You know what? You're right, Mom, Star agreed. Listening to Star sing the next song in a drunken sway, Erica watched Hensley become distracted by an attractive young female who approached him. Erica elbowed Star with a sly look and a motion towards Hensley. Come on, let's go get a drink. Star knew Erica's game immediately. She was giving the guard the slip. It was a move that had caused Bennett's vein in his forehead to come to near explosion many times in the past. Quietly removing themselves from the group, the conversations continued, and their absence went unnoticed. They headed towards the man with the moonshine. He provided them with free drinks after Star gave him a kiss on the cheek, and the ladies lost themselves in the crowd. Erica was downright sloppy drunk now, as she stumbled her way through the dancing horde. She and Star laughed at each other's jokes and supported the weight of one another as they went along. Despite her altered state, Erica still took a moment to realize how precious this memory with Star would be. Too much time had passed since they laughed this much together. Dancing through the beat of the next song, they paused when the band switched. Watching Sean set up, Star noticed a newly obtained black eye. They couldn't stop laughing, so they left the dance floor and headed towards the back where they could get some air and use the facilities. As they pushed through the crowd, Erica overheard a woman saying, I wish the feds would catch that woman. Who cares about some survivor from Sacramento? She should have gone with the wave that took California, and we'd all be better off. Erica's head snapped to the direction of the comment. A burly-looking woman was talking with a group of people. Star overheard the comment as well, and watching her mom's reaction, tried to urge Erica forward. Wait, I want to hear this, Erica insisted, with a stubborn, drunken attitude. She provided hope for all of us. I think she should be sainted, another person said. Some hope? Look what happened to all those innocent people in the north. And where is she now? She appears and causes all this chaos, and then disappears like a coward. If I found her, I would kill her myself. Then I could trade her head to the feds for that bounty. That would end all of this, the lady raged, in her own drunken stupor. It was obvious that the group she was talking to didn't share her opinions, but Erica could feel that they didn't want to say anything out of respect. She waited for someone, anyone, to protest again. You got something to say about the lone survivor of Sacramento? Erica slurred, catching the woman's attention. Maybe I do. What do you care? The lady blabbed nastily at Erica. Maybe you should shut your pie hole before someone does it for you, Erica snapped. Do you know who I am, you little bitch? The woman hissed at her. Am I supposed to care? Erica retorted. As far as I'm concerned, you're just some drunken whore who needs to have the taste slapped out of her mouth. What did you say? The woman gasped, shocked at Erica's behavior. You heard me, or are you deaf and dumb? Erica asked. Mom, let's go, Star urged, pulling Erica away. As they were leaving, the woman screamed, Sounds like one of you has a head on your shoulders. Maybe you should listen to your slut of a daughter more. Star released her grip on her mother, letting drunken emotions overwhelm herself as well. The crowd around them was now taking note of the two women engaged in the altercation. Erica turned back furiously and ducked a knockout punch from the woman, aimed directly for her head. The woman lunged forward in her drunken state, and Erica helped her out with a push to her back that sent her flailing into the crowd. Now they caught the attention of a large group of people that formed a circle around them. The crowd started chanting, Fight! 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 The woman was back on her feet, standing tall above Erica. She grabbed onto Erica's head, but Erica kicked her legs out from under her and she fell hard. As she fell, the woman pulled out a handful of Erica's hair. But Erica stood unfazed over the top of her. She expected the woman to try to stand back up, but instead she kicked Erica's legs out and tried to get on top of her. Erica caught the woman in between her legs as the woman swung furiously, hitting her across the head. Pushing her hips out and using her legs, She flipped the woman over. She mounted the woman and unleashed her own flurry of punches. Erica didn't notice that the woman had stopped fighting and was lying in a pool of her own blood. Star was screaming, "Stop, Mom, stop!" But Erica didn't stop. Her instincts took over. The sound faded out. She swung frantically until she was suddenly ripped off the woman into the arms of a large man who squeezed her body tightly. Erica reeled back and connected an elbow with the man's head. He dropped her and Erica flew back at the woman, kicking her hard in the side. The woman folded into two before the man caught a hold of her again. He held her tightly, dodging the blows she threw at him, until someone else appeared in front of her. "Baby, stop!" the voice echoed through her mind. She coiled her arm back to swing at the new threat, her eyes slowly gaining focus. "It's me, baby, stop!" Vince pleaded. "Vince?" Erica blurted out, forgetting the aliases and the alcohol adrenaline slurry. Her body relaxed, and the man gently put her down. The woman's friends had gathered around to help her. "Let's get her out of here," Bennett declared from behind Erica. "Bennett?" Erica asked, turning around. The fresh air outside took Erica's breath away, and her legs felt weak. "Take her home, Vince," Bennett told him sternly. "And Hensley, don't let her out of your sight again." "I won't," he assured Bennett, helping Vince shoulder her weight as they left town.
All right, so Erica, in this drug-induced stupor, she finds a very unhealthy way to handle conflict resolution. Here today to help us learn how to handle conflict resolution in a very healthy way is Jim Cobb. Jim Cobb is a nationally recognized authority on disaster readiness. He has written several books and is a regular contributor to numerous magazines. Jim is also editor-in-chief for Prepper Survival Guide magazine. He has been featured on TV and was a featured instructor for the Make Ready to Survive DVD series produced by Panteo Productions. Jim lives with his family in the upper Midwest. If you would like to contact Jim, you can do so at www.survivalweekly.com. That's www.survivalweekly.com. So let's go ahead and welcome Jim to the show. Today, I am super honored to have Jim Cobb on my show. Hi, Jim. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. I want to just thank you for taking time out of your day to spend it with me and my listeners. It's always nice to have new voices on the show.
Well, I appreciate you asking me to be on. Been looking forward to it for a while.
Yeah, so why don't you just go ahead and explain to the listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then where they could get a hold of you if they want more information.
Well, I've been actively prepping or, active in the survival world more or less for about 30 years or more. Currently, I'm editor-in-chief for Prepper Survival Guide magazine. I write for several of the other magazines in the niche. I've written 9 books. People want to reach out to me, they can find me at survivalweekly.com, or I'm active on Facebook as Jim Cobb Survival.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll go ahead and put those links on the episode show notes for all the listeners. So today, Jim, we are talking about conflict resolution, and the chapter read that we just did has a huge conflict in it. Erica just ends up going a little bit over the top and has this huge altercation, thanks to the liquid courage that they've been consuming.
Yep.
So, this is bound and determined to happen. Alcohol is a great thing to have on hand in a survival situation because it helps out medically in so many ways, as far as an antiseptic and a pain reliever, but it can also, cause people to have these types of conflicts. So what's a good way? You got 2 drunken individuals. What's kind of a good way to diffuse that situation without causing injury to either party? I know a lot of self-defense moves, and I'm sure I could end it, but, you want your people to be able to defend your camp the next day. So how do we handle this?
Well, the first thing you want to do is, and I'm looking at this as kind of a third party trying to just defuse the situation altogether. The first thing I want to do is try talking and try determining just how inebriated we are here.
Yeah, right.
because that's going to kind of impact where you go from here. The difficulty when you're dealing with somebody who's intoxicated, number one, their pain threshold has been lowered, their inhibitions have been lowered, and their cognitive reasoning isn't all that great. It's kind of a recipe for disaster.
Yes.
You know, one of the things you're going to have to do is repeat yourself over and over and over and over and over as you're talking to them, because that's how it's going to get through. They're not paying attention to you. They're not listening to you. They're not reasoning the situation. They're not thinking. You need to repeat yourself frequently to get through past the alcohol and into that brain and get them to focus on you and to understand what's happening. Often when we're dealing with somebody who's fairly intoxicated, it sounds silly, but if you can distract them, it often works. It's like a dog sees a squirrel,
Right.
that kind of a thing. If we can redirect them towards something else and get their mind off of the altercation, often that altercation just fizzles out, disappears into nothing. Now, complicating matters is how far into the altercation are these two people when you step in?
Yeah, right. Yeah, because are they already going at it hard or not? Right. Yep.
Right. If it's still at the verbal stage, you stand a very good chance of redirecting them and kind of, turning them away a little bit, talk to them about something else, and even, hey, let's just go get another drink. You want another drink, don't you? Let's go get another drink. Come on, let's just get another drink. And I mean, you feel foolish the way you're approaching it because it's like you're talking to a 4-year-old.
Right.
But in many respects, you are. You're talking to somebody with the cognitive reasoning ability of a 5-year-old.
Yep.
So you kind of have to look at it that way. Now, if it's already progressed to the point where there's been physical contact, there's been some pushing, some shoving, whatever, you're going to have to be a little more forceful. You're going to have to try to get them physically turned away and pulled away from the situation. And at the same time that you're doing that, you're talking to them the whole way.
Okay.
The last thing you want is for them to lose their focus on you and start focusing on the other person again. You almost have to get your mouth right up by their ear so that they hear nothing but you. Because if they hear that other person, because that other person is going to be taunting,
Yep.
all it's going to take is that one more, yeah, well, your mom's a bleepity bleep, and then,
Yep.
okay, it's on.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, every situation is different. Every person is different. Some people respond to different stimuli in different ways. If, as the third party, you are physically larger or more powerful, you're going to have an easier job than if, you are a really tiny, petite person and this is, an 8-foot linebacker. You're going to have to be a little more creative in some ways, whether it's using joint manipulation or things like that, or just, kind of sweet talking.
Right.
And again, what's your relationship with that person? If that person is your significant other, they might be more inclined to listen to you than if it's just an acquaintance, just a group member, that kind of a thing. There, like everything else in the prepper and survival world, there is no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
Everything is subjective. Now, you and I talked a little bit off the air before the show started. One of the rules that I try to live by, and it sounds so stupid because it came from a really cheesy movie,
Right.
but be nice until it's time to not be nice. I spent a lot of years as a private detective. That's what I did for a living. And the bulk of my job was serving papers on people. I was delivering court subpoenas and summonses and divorce papers and stuff like that. Things that people don't generally look forward to getting.
Right.
And I found, I did it for about 15 years. I'll bet you I served well over 10,000 people over the course of my career. And one of the things that I learned early on was, if you come across with a chip on your shoulder right from the get-go, you're not going to get anywhere. The person immediately, if you walk up with attitude, now it's an antagonistic situation right from the get-go.
Yeah, they're going to put their defenses up and be like, what's going on? Mm-hmm.
Exactly. If instead you walk up more nonchalant, more, what I used to tell people, I'd say, I'm like UPS, but I just don't drive a brown truck. I'm just a delivery guy,
Right.
And that often would kind of lower the defenses a little bit and kind of get that adrenaline to kick off rather than pump up. And in any type of an interpersonal conflict, the last thing you want is for emotion to be manning that train. You want their intellect, you want their reasoning to take over so they understand what's going on rather than just reacting with emotion.
Right. It's so true, because you just fly off your emotions, and then, 20 minutes later, you're like, why did I do that? That was, if I would have just calmed down a little, I could have handled that a lot better.
Exactly. And we see this over and over and over again on social media.
Yes.
And it's compounded by, we all know the vast majority of communication is nonverbal. It's body language, it's tone, it's inflection, it's eye contact or lack thereof. And all of that is absent on social media. Mm-hmm. So when you read a comment or you read a post, it's very, very easy for you to misinterpret what the person was trying to communicate, because you don't have all of those other cues to help you. And that's why so often people get into these really long, involved arguments on social media, and it just stems from a simple miscommunication. We see it in our personal lives. How many times have we gotten in arguments with our significant other or a family member because we misunderstood what they said, or the way they said something, it made it come across totally different than what they intended, but we took it that wrong way. And now we're pissed and they're pissed because we're pissed, and it snowballs from there. And it started out as just a simple miscommunication. One of the things that, I kind of get called on the carpet for sometimes on social media is I tend to be very wordy. I tend to be, I don't answer a question with just 2 words. It's usually a couple of sentences or more. And there's a reason for that. I want to be as precise as possible so that people don't misunderstand what I'm getting at, what I'm trying to say. I would rather, take the time to craft the message very, very accurately than, just fire off a quick response and have the person totally misunderstand what I said and have it just snowball from there. Whether we're, communicating online or we're talking to people face to face, often people have lost the ability to communicate effectively. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's a result of social media or if social media is the result of us, not communicating very well.
And maybe information overload too. Like people just want that short snap. So they're like, oh, like, what are you doing? You're trying to communicate this to me? I don't really want to listen. Actually, I was just going to go about my business. Yep. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and then you've got things like cognitive dissonance that come into play, and where you have people who, and confirmation bias is another aspect of it, where they only want to hear the things that they agree with.
Yeah.
And, it's sad to say, but it's extremely prevalent in our little part of the world, in our little niche with survival and preparedness and that.
That's true.
People don't want to hear differing opinions.
Right. when I'm writing my books. I mean, as a
Yeah.
fictional author, I write fiction work. And so people are
Yeah.
going to read this and then perceive it a certain way. So I
Yeah.
wrote it with like a certain, communication in mind, but
Oh, sure.
how does my reader understand that, right? So a lot of times I'll make my husband actually read my book out loud to me, because then I can kind of, how would my reader read it who's never read it before, right? So I can
Yep.
listen to him reading it and go, oh, okay, I need to change that sentence up because he didn't understand it the way that I meant it to be when I wrote it, right? So it's,
Yep. Yep.
yeah, the communication and then
Definitely.
doing written communication is really tough. You got to just do those long explanations and make sure it's really understood, because Twitter, how many characters do we get now? 15 or something?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the reading out loud thing, that's something that a lot of novelists have used over the years, whether it's themselves just reading it out loud or they ask somebody else, their husband or wife or whatever, to do it, because you're using different muscles, so to speak. You're using different parts of your brain to interpret the information. It's one, it's interesting. My wife is studying a couple of different foreign languages right now online, just for fun. Just she wanted to learn them, so she's trying to learn French and Spanish.
That's cool.
And I was talking to her the other day, and I said, what a lot of people don't understand is when you're learning a new language, there are 3 different distinct aspects of the language that you need to learn. You need to learn how to read it, you need to learn how to speak it, and you need to know how to hear it. And they use very different parts of the brain. And it's not uncommon for somebody to, as they're, going through the process of learning, to realize that they can understand it really well when they're reading it, and they can kind of sort of sound it out, but they have a much harder time listening to it and interpreting it, because the listening part is the part that seems to catch up the slowest.
That's true.
And yet, what do we use most often when we're communicating face to face?
Right.
We're using our ears.
The listening part. Yep.
And that's the part that, takes the most time to catch up and to understand. And
then, even cross-cultural, like body language, can be a lot different.
Definitely.
Right. So it's important to understand, what certain cues they use in those cultures that might be offensive to us, but in their culture, it's perfectly normal.
Exactly. Which hand do you shake when you greet somebody, or do you make eye contact or do you not make eye contact? Things like that, that, we don't think about it because we're not confronted with these differences on a regular basis. If we lived over in Europe or in some of these other parts of the world where we have a lot more, how can I say this? A lot of different cultures living in very close proximity. And I don't mean like, going to the city and then going to Chinatown. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, you drive for 45 minutes and you're in another freaking country.
Right.
We don't think about it like that here in the United States because we're so big. We can drive forever and we never have to deal with it, know.
It'd be like each state is its own country, right?
Exactly. And now, granted, there are parts of the United States where it does seem like this is a whole different world from where I'm from.
Yeah.
But
we all love the red, white, and blue, so.
Yeah. And the whole conflict resolution animal is what I feel one of the most important survival skills there is. And people don't realize it. They don't think about it because it's not sexy. It's not fire making. It's not guns. It's not even food storage. How does this keep you alive? A group, whether it's a family or a retreat group or whatever it is, can be made or broken by how the members treat one another. And how we deal with interpersonal conflict really, really comes into play. When I talk about conflict resolution in a survival sense, a lot of people, coincidentally enough, they misunderstand it right from the get-go, because they think we're talking about like another group is approaching us and they want our stuff and we need to figure out a way to get along.
Right.
That's not what we're talking about.
No.
We're talking about the people who live with you.
Yeah.
And getting along with them.
I mean, my husband and I have tried to have roommates before, and like, no, it's not happening. Right? Like the kids is it, and now that he's 18, he's starting to push it too. But, it's like, we get along spectacularly together. And then like when you start adding other people in, you're like, I got to deal with them every day and stuff like that. And how they interact and stuff. And so that's going to be really important. And not only that, but now we're going to have super stresses on top of what's normally going on. And then you have this group that you have to try and now live with. And you might be great friends. You might be awesome.
Yeah.
But as soon as you're like living in that close proximity to each other, it can just destroy the relationship.
Absolutely. And the other part that comes into play is there are so many different approaches to conflict resolution, and you really kind of have to understand which approach works best with certain situations or even with certain people. As an example, one of the ones, a very common one, is concession. Okay. And this is, this just isn't worth my time. I'm just going to give them what they want. Sometimes we deal with kids this way. They wear us down to the point where it's like, fine, here's the cookie. Now go away. I don't want to see you for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah,
exactly. The downside is you get in a habit of conceding to the point where you find yourself giving in to things that are actually kind of important to you. And then this breeds some discontent. You start really kind of getting angry about it, and it can really fester and grow and, turn really bad.
Yep.
But
because you're like bottling
concession, exactly. And the other part with concession is this. There are times in our lives that we're wrong. And there are not many times when you will feel worse than when you're in the middle of a heated argument with somebody and you realize you're wrong.
Yep.
And you've been fighting tooth and nail for the last half hour about this. And you realize, oh crap, and that's when concession comes into play.
Yeah, that's why if I go to battle, I'm going to make sure that I know what the hell I'm talking about, or else, forget it altogether, right?
Exactly. Now, another one that a lot of groups use is consensus. This is, we're going to vote on it, and we're going to let the majority win. The downside is you can still have that discontent there. If the losing side doesn't give up right away or doesn't agree with, okay, fine, you win, consensus usually works the best if you have some sort of independent third party, a leader or, a member of the group who really doesn't care one way or the other. And they can kind of just direct the conversation. What works well is to have each side kind of briefly state what they want, why they want it, why it's important, and then let the group make the decision. The critical part there is that everybody feels their point was heard, and sometimes that's literally all it takes.
Yep.
Sometimes they just want to be heard and they want to be understood. And I mean, we've all dealt with that, whether it's a family situation or, a group setting or whatever. Sometimes we just want people to pay attention to us and listen to what we have to say, whether they end up agreeing with it or not. We can rest easy with, okay, I made my peace with it. I said what I had to say. Whatever they're going to do, they're going to do.
Yep.
you know?
Yeah. Whereas if they didn't listen to you in the first place, you'd be like, they didn't even listen to me. They didn't even take the time to care. You know, what does it matter? And then you're just more pissed off about it.
Exactly. Probably the most common approach is compromise, and we've all done this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you give a little to get a little, and it works well. You know, in most cases that we try it, you know, that's why it's the most common.
Yep.
The downside that you have to watch out for is that you're still going to get at least some of what you want, and you're okay with that, and you're okay with what you're giving up to get it. Compromise, it's kind of like bartering. You know, I've got, you know, these heirloom seeds, and I want, you know, that rabbit pelt or whatever it is. You know, am I willing to give up this many seeds to get that pelt? You know, it's very circumstantial. It's very subject to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
It is overused in our daily lives, and it can lead to feelings of resentment if it's used so often and the people feel like that they never get to fully win an argument, that they, no matter what happens, they always have to give up something. Over time, that can fester, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense, because you're always like, well, I always got to like give something to get what I want. And like, well, that's kind of how the world works, it seems like.
Yep.
Nowadays.
Yep, it is. It is.
Yeah.
One of the best approaches, and it's one of the best, but it's also one that rarely works out, is collaboration. If the parties involved in the conflict can agree to really work together to come up with a solution that works for everybody, that's a win-win across the board.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is ego.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to do that because we want to win, and winning's important. And it's interesting because that win at all costs mentality, that's not prevalent all over the world.
Right.
It's really not. I mean, it's out there, but there are very few countries that are as focused on it as we are. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. It's just something you need to understand when you're talking about interpersonal conflicts. That ego is a huge part of it. And a lot of conflicts would fizzle out if you could take ego out of the equation.
Maybe it's because of our, focus on the individual, right? You can do whatever you want. You can achieve anything. You attitude, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, I can remember sitting in grade school, and this is back in the 70s and early 80s, when a lot of the people listening to this are, they thought we were chipping wheels out of stone.
Yeah, right.
There was a program in our school called I Am Special, and like once a month or maybe twice a month, we would get together as a class and we would sit in a circle and we would talk about why each one of us was a special little flower and how we all had all these unique attributes to, bring to the table and yada, yada, yada. And as an adult looking back, it makes me nauseous. It really does. It was just ridiculously just overdone. Yes, it's important to understand that we are all individuals and we all have unique skills and experience and everything that we can bring to the group. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we're part of a group.
Right. And if the group doesn't survive, you're not surviving.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you have to reach a point where you're like, okay, I got to think what's best for all of us, because without these people around to help me, I am screwed.
Yeah, definitely. And that's partially that falls back on the leadership of the group, and how the leader wants to approach these things. Quite often in our little part of the world, the focus seems to be on, for lack of a better term, we'll call it a command control type of leadership. very militaristic or paramilitary, they give orders, you follow orders,
Right.
and that works with some people some of the time, particularly if the individuals in the group are accustomed to that, they're veterans or whatever the case is. They kind of, they respond to that because that's what they know. If you have a group that consists of primarily office workers and, maybe fitness people and housewives and, suburbanites, they're not going to respond well
Right.
to the command control. They're
Yeah,
going to be
gonna
like,
tell you where you can stick
what
it.
the hell is this?
Yeah.
So when, I had a conversation once with a very good friend of mine, a couple who were seeking groups to be involved with, retreat groups, survival groups, that kind of thing. And they had run across this one group where the head honcho made it extremely clear exactly how this group was going to be run once, the bombs dropped or whatever it was that happened. Everybody is up by 5 a.m. and by 5:30 a.m. or 05:30, they will have showered, and by 0600 we will be eating breakfast, and 06:30 we're, just on and on and on. And it's just like, that dude's going to wake up dead after about 2 weeks of that, because people aren't going to put up with it.
Yeah, they're going to be like, dude, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. A good leader in particularly some type of an aftermath situation. A good leader is one who's going to recognize the different skill sets, the different levels of experience, and try to partner people where they're going to learn and serve a role within the community. And conflicts will be dealt with on an individual basis, if at all possible, and use some of these different techniques that we're talking about you want to resolve the conflict in as positive a manner as possible. You don't want people just pissed off.
Yeah.
No, nobody's always going to win. You're always going to have a loser at some point, but they still need to understand and feel that, okay, yeah, I didn't win this one, but there was a good reason for it. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. Because if you can bring it into their understanding, then that's a win-win for everybody, and not everybody can win every time. So
right.
you have to explain why that is. When you have a group together, do you like having like a single leader control to work as that third party, or do you like to have, would you like to have, like to see like a person, say, in charge of gardening, and a person in charge of, security, and a person in charge of all those ends that work together as like the governing board, say?
Both.
Okay.
It depends on the size of the group. The larger the group is, the more diverse the community is going to be. If you have a group of, say, 10 people, you don't need foremen, so to speak. You just got to have somebody who's kind of steering the ship, and have the group members, filling their roles, whether it's tending the gardens or food preservation or, water, whatever it is.
Yeah, group consensus is going to work a lot easier in that situation. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. Once you get, 30, 40, 50, 100 people, when you've got a true community going, that's when you need to have, these foremen, these, managers, for lack of a better term, who are going to, direct the teams that are tending the food and, taking care of the hunting and the fishing and the food preservation and all this kind of stuff. That's when you need that. I hate to use the term middle management, but that's really what they are.
It is. That's why I encourage people so much to go out and have an effect in their local government, because that's like your middle manager right there. If you don't.
Exactly.
Right? You got to jump
Yep,
up steps,
definitely.
not just go to the Supreme Court,
Yeah, you got to take it one step at a time.
Right.
With the leadership, with a larger community, I guess in my mind, absent, all other things being equal, it would be wonderful to have, kind of a group leadership where you've got, the person who's in charge of the food crews, and you've got the person in charge of security, and you've got, these different managers who attend meetings with, some type of, say a 2 or 3 person leadership council, and advise them about, okay, here's where we're at with food. Here's where we're at with water. This issue came up today. We've got, this that we're dealing with from a medical standpoint. Suddenly everybody's starting to get, chicken pox or whatever it is.
Yep.
But that's only really needed if the group is fairly large. Again, if we're dealing with just a couple of families or whatever, it's a consensus. It's, okay, and deal with it from there, as time, as situations crop up.
That makes sense. Yeah, because, you'd like to, everybody has the lone wolf view, like it's going to be just your family, and that's not realistic because you're going to be dead.
No.
You can't do all those tasks as just one family. So you're going to have to think about what families are we actually bonding together with, and then have a game plan as to, okay, conflict's going to happen because now we have stress is super high. We have all these families living together, and now we have to figure out how to handle conflicts. How does each individual family do it? Does one person kind of rule the roost? How, do they sit down and have a powwow? So, and then different families are going to handle that differently. So now we have to find a way. So even finding a way that works for everybody can be a conflict.
Yeah, it is. It is. And what a lot of people don't understand is this stuff takes time. It takes time to develop these skills. It takes time to practice and improve the skills. This isn't something that you're just going to pick up overnight. Right. But on the plus side of the equation, all of this stuff is stuff you can use every day. Absolutely. This isn't something that is just going to be for after the end of the world. This is, tomorrow at work or tonight when you're dealing with the kids,
Yeah, you can start practicing the skills now, and it makes you a much more effective leader. Like for me personally, studying the amount of leadership that I have been with my podcast has really helped me in my instructor skills. It's helped me as a partner to my husband, and it's helped me as a parent to my children, to be able to handle that. Like you say, cut out the emotion, and things don't get real until it has to get real,
Exactly.
That's how I try to operate it now. And I even tell like my young son that I'm like, hey, we can choose what our attitude is here. So we can be happy and we're going to come to a middle understanding that works for both of us, or mom can go into psycho mode and then you'll have to deal with it on a timeout. So you can basically choose it, and he kind of understands that. It's like, when you're talking with that drunken idiot, well, we can handle this nice and easily and everybody can walk away from the situation or not. So let's figure it out here, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you gave us a lot of great skills today, Jim, for getting, sharpening our conflict resolution techniques that I'm going to put into use myself. So can't thank you enough for coming on the show and giving us a piece of your time.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity anytime.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim, so much for coming on the show. So much great information packed in that interview on, how we can begin to handle conflicts in a very healthy way so that we can resolve them rather than letting them fester and become these huge problems. So I really appreciate your time coming on my show and just, filling up everybody's ears with all these great strategies. And, this is not information that we have to wait to employ in an SHTF situation. This is information that we can employ today with our family, with our friends, with our coworkers. Conflict resolution happens around us all the time, and it gives you a lot of opportunity to go ahead and put this into action. I want to go ahead and thank my Patreon members for your support. If you would like to become a Patreon member, head on over to www.patreon.com/Changing Earth. That's www.patreon.com/Changing Earth. Thank you so much for listening today. Without you guys listening out there, there's not really any point in putting the show out. So I do appreciate every minute that you guys are listening to the show, learning the information, enjoying the great stories, and I really, really, really value your feedback. So if you want to go ahead and get a hold of me over on Facebook, over at my website, use any of those avenues, and I love to hear from you. So go ahead. If you got any upcoming topics you'd love to see, or just comments about the characters, things like that, I would love to hear it. So go ahead and hit me up. But until next time, remember, dream, survive, thrive.
Thank you for joining Sara for this episode of the Changing Earth podcast. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Day After Disaster, Without Land, The Walls of Freedom, Battle for the South, and Dark Days in Denver at www.author.sarafhathaway.com. If you love Sara's books and this podcast, please head over to Amazon or iTunes and let everyone know by leaving a review.